just a number of problems that I see blockchain being able to start rectifying in a world that is becoming much more technology focused, much more controlled by centralized organizations that become monopolistic in the future and end up controlling people's lives. So it's kind of a good counterbalance for what we're seeing with incentive models and what we're seeing with projects that are emerging. And I have a lot of confidence and faith that these technologies are going to bring a lot more trust and transparency to people, but they're also going to bring a lot of difficult situations and new things, which happens with new technologies that might not be the best. So I've always found that there's a double-edged sword to everything. And with great new technologies emerging, you're going to get change that's going to be benefiting humankind, but you're also going to get, unfortunately, a number of people that are incentivized and do things that become scammy or cause problems. And I would really encourage everybody here to continue to try to take on leadership roles and bring forward principles that are really encompassing and very inclusive and that don't divide and unite people together and create positive messages of uplifting situations. And it's about being of service and being good to people. And I think the technologies I've been involved in have helped me to come to that conclusion. And towards my shift of changing the incentive structures of the world, which is what I really want to try and do, is to shift people and let them know that the better impact that you're doing for more people in the world, the better you're going to do. And sometimes the strive to make more money or to gain more wealth comes contrary to what a lot of the masses actually need. So my shift is focused towards creating positive impact. And I believe that the wealth will come based on doing that. And the more people that you can include in your equations to create a win for, the better off everybody's going to be.
So why machine learning? Like I said, it is able to capture the nonlinear relationships in the data, and it is able to detect unknown patterns in the data. Also, the predictive models can learn from the training data to make predictions. And then what is so amazing about machine learning is that they learn from experience without being explicitly programmed.
There is a historical and cultural narrative which, if we don't create trustworthy AI, will work against even its adoption for good purposes. Jan Claesen, the Council of Europe's Director of Information Society, recently asked us to remember the 1993 movie Jurassic Park. In a famous scene, Jeff Goldblum, who plays a chaos theory expert, tells the owner of a dinosaur theme park that your scientist was so preoccupied with whether or not they could create dinosaurs from prehistoric DNA that they didn't stop to think if they should. So the question to ask is, does AI better connect and empower our citizens, improve working life, create a more sustainable society? And the test now is how the UK and other nations can actively take steps to guide the ethical development and utilization of AI without over-regulating and stifling innovation. So this means, on the one hand, encouraging global adoption of an international AI ethical framework and determining what the key common factors are. On the other hand, ensuring compliance at a national level with those ethical codes in a practical way. Consensus, however, on an ethical framework for AI may be vital, but it's nothing unless we ensure its real-world application and adoption. And that means evaluating the impact of various AI technologies, assessing the risk, which will determine what level of governance we need to go to. For example, do we know when an AI application is so risky that the precautionary principle should be invoked? And then whether we have the necessary tools for audit and risk assessment.
The model of growing a company based on profits and then selling out to larger companies and aggregation of companies, I think needs to change. And it's going to start with principles of entrepreneurs and principles of, that model. And why I'm building things is not eventually to sell to a large giant that's going to then take everything there and do as they wish, away from the principles that I stand for. So anything that I do is not about leading towards the typical model of raising capital, providing shareholder returns. It's based on principles, and it's based on principles of empowerment, based on principles of, I'd rather not take people's money because once you take somebody's money to invest in something, you're now beholden to them as shareholders, and they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on you to do the traditional means of raising the shareholder value. So as much as I do, I try to fund things personally myself, which enables me to maintain the principles and maintain the areas that I wish to as a company to be around empowerment.
And the more control people have over their own data, and I mentioned data trusts and hubs of all things and so on, the more we're conscious of that, the better it will be in terms of making sure that this data is not just simply a commodity that is only accessible by big data companies, big tech companies.